Good morning, dear parents, once again. Hare Krishna. Welcome to today's online workshop on a very important topic, discipline with dignity, conducted once again by Neve Values Plus. What comes to one's mind when we hear the word discipline is usually that it's very important, but it is not quite easy to practice, right? This is one word that is more talked than walked. I hope you agree with me. Like all of you, I am eager and looking forward to know what our speaker is going to talk about this topic today, especially what does it mean when it says without compromising on anyone's dignity. Most of you may be familiar with our guest speaker today. However, it is my pleasure and privilege to introduce her once again. Ms. Rajeshwari Nag, Director, Agnya Counseling and Training, is a psychological counselor, soft skill and life skill trainer. After working for the corporate for over a decade, her passion towards working for social cause drew her to the field of psychology and training. She had the opportunity of training students and faculty at various educational institutions. She has conducted several workshops with parents on various upbringing concerns of children. She has trained employees of various organizations on team building, conflict management, stress management, leadership, and emotional intelligence. Some of the organizations where she has conducted training sessions are RV College of Engineering, CMR Institute of Technology, Sahyadri College of Engineering, Defense Quality Assurance, Karnataka State Bar Council, New Horizon College, and many more. She has worked with budding counselors and teachers by training them with regard to understanding the behavioral concerns of children. She provides counseling and guidance to the students, particularly adolescents who have experienced psychological trauma. She provides career guidance to students who are in a confused state to choose the career stream. She has her master's degree in psychology. She is a director of Agnya Counseling and Training, as I told before. She is associated as a counselor at the Bar Council of Karnataka High Court and Mallige Hospital. She is a lead trainer at Faith Foundation India, associate faculty at Banjara Academy. She gives counseling support to educational institutions, and she is also a certified career coach. Over to you, ma'am, and welcome once again.
Thank you, Shaila. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you so much. Today, I have been given a very, very great responsibility of speaking on the subject discipline with dignity. Throughout our lives, we have seen and we have felt what discipline can do to us. And when should we start teaching the same to our next generations? Or should we have to teach? Should we have to be role models by disciplining ourselves? Or in case if it is need to be disciplined in a certain way, how we are going to be doing that to the children without hampering their self-esteem, without hampering their dignity. So and why is it important? Why is it important to not to hamper on their dignity and not to disturb the self-esteem of a child is something what we're going to be looking at today. Thanks once again, National Institute of Value Education for giving me this responsible opportunity to be talking on the subject. To the parents, I suppose there should be a lot of parents who have logged in already. To the teachers, and if there are any children watching this, and if you can understand why is it important to be disciplined, that's going to be great. And also to probably anyone who is interested in understanding why disciplining is important and how do we discipline and how do we actually take care of the emotional concerns of a child, during the growth process. I hope I will be able to do justice to the trust that's meted on me by Neve Foundation. So let me go into the presentation. Um, yeah, first of all, I welcome all the parents, whoever is present here, to this wonderful workshop. And yeah, let me start off with this, a poem by Khalil Gibran. You must have heard of Khalil Gibran. And he is a person who gives a lot of who has given a lot of, wise advices, or may not be advice. He has already, he was giving actually what he felt was needed. So there is a beautiful poem by Khalil Gibran, and it says, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but your not thoughts. But they are their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls. For their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday." So, with this thought, I would move on. Ha! Have you? This is a joke on light bulb. Okay. So it goes on like this. How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? Right? Because the belief is that many of the inventions, or many of the creative ideas have all come with the eureka moment. With regard to the children also, how many, or anyone for that matter, how many light bulbs or how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? In fact, the answer is none. The light bulb will change when it's ready. So how much ever we discipline, how much ever we stop a child from, or anyone from, not doing something or doing something, unless there is that eureka moment in a child or in someone, our actions may not be so fruitful. So it depends on how do we create that environment to the child, or to the adolescent child, or to an adult, or whoever it is. And unless there is a willingness, and unless the aspect of innate feeling that yes, change is needed, and I need to change, or I need to adapt something, is there within, and it comes from within, the change may not be possible. We can only look at the temporary actions, but then we may not actually see the fruits of whatever we want our children to be doing. So that's what I mean to say when we say that the light bulb will change only when it's ready to change. So let's get into the origin of the word, origin of the word discipline. So you know what, if you look at any word, it goes through a lot of changes in terms of its usage. It goes through a lot of changes in terms of its dimensions of meaning. And similarly, probably the word discipline has also gone through a lot of change. And it has also gone through a lot of dimensions to it. And it's when you just speak about discipline, discipline has become a broad spectrum now. Now, essentially, the word discipline means it's to teach, right? So that's the essence of this word discipline, right? So on that note, I will be starting on with this presentation. The assumptions or the base for disciplining is discipline is not a synonym for punishment. So when we teach something, it does not mean that we are punishing our child, or there should be some kind of consequences to either the favorable or unfavorable actions of a child, right? So punishment is definitely not a synonym to discipline, and discipline is definitely not a synonym to punishment. And on that basis, on these three bases is what I'm going to be taking this talk forward. Disciplining refers to teaching them responsible behavior and self-control. So when someone takes the responsibility of their actions, they will also be willing to face the consequences of their actions, and they will also be in harmony with whatever outcome comes by the actions what they have taken. And hence, the self-control is, as I told you in my earlier slide, we're talking about the light bulb joke. It refers to that there should be a willingness and readiness to take charge of oneself. That's what I mean by self-control. So reasoning out the understanding capability of your child and discipline accordingly. No, it's not like a one size fits all. We cannot go with that kind of a thought while we are disciplining the children. And the disciplining has to be done as per the age. We'll have to consider the capability of a child's understanding, abilities. A lot of things goes in while we actually look at disciplining the child. Even if you look at 3 or 4 children in the same house, each child understands the discipline aspect in a very, very different perspective. So one size fits all cannot be the rule here. So we'll have to kind of if I can be using this word called customizing, based on the child's needs, based on the child's understanding, based on the child's behavior. That's what is very, very important, right? So on that note, I would be continuing with this. And definitely, I'll also be touching upon the threats and rewards. Should we use the fear, or should we have to go in the rewards mode? Let's look at what it means. Okay. Yeah. So when we discipline, we should always ensure that, the personal dignity of a child, personal self-respect of a child is not compromised. So self-respect is the fruit of discipline. The sense of dignity grows with the ability to say no to oneself. So if we can actually orient the child, or if we can actually guide the child into this, wherein they learn to refrain from doing something. They learn to refrain from saying no to themselves to do something. If we can actually take the child to this stage, definitely we can say that we are on the right track of disciplining a child, right? So then, so disciplining. How closely, there are certain points what we need to be keeping in mind while we are disciplining our children. How close, first of all, we need to be asking few questions to ourselves before we start off looking at the disciplining aspect. So how closely are our words connected to our actions? When I say this, basically we need to models here. Now, we cannot be saying something and we cannot be doing something. So when I say we need to be role models, first of all, we need to have certain kind of routines to ourselves. We need to actually, kind of demonstrate the responsible behavior, ourselves when we actually get into disciplining children. Basically, we need to ask ourselves what kind of role modeling I am doing when I am, working with the children. So the next thing what we need to look at is, do we follow through with consequences or just threaten with words? Now, supposing, many of us do this. If you don't do that, I'm going to be doing this. If you don't, do something, I'm not going to be giving this to you. And later on, what happens when the event is done, the consequences is not meted. In the sense, we don't actually follow up with the consequences what we have told to the child. What I mean to say is, supposing we have set certain rules, right? We have set certain rules at home. Now, if you don't do your homework, I'm not going to be giving you this, or I'm not going to be taking you here. Now, supposing the child has not done the homework, and you have forgotten about what you have spoken, and you actually uh, you know uh, go with your own kind of behavior, in the sense, and you've forgotten what you have told about the action which the child has not taken. Now that sets a precedence. That sets a precedence to the child that, oh, come on, he or she will say something and they may not stick to what they are talking about. So that's also one thing, when we actually set certain rules for discipline, it is also very important that we follow that rules all the time. So when this happens, what level of respect are you demonstrating to your child? Now, when we say that, what level of respect are you demonstrating to your child? What kind of talk have you understand? Have you understood the emotional need, the physical need of a child? Have you understood why a child has done a certain act? And a lot of things goes on in demonstrating the level of understanding with yourself. Probably you will have to take a little empathetic approach here. So do you feel respected by your child? That is a very, very important, pertinent question that should be asked by all the people who are dealing with the children, be it parents, be it guardians, be it caretakers, be it teachers, or anyone who are actually dealing with the children directly. So, this is a very, very important and pertinent question. So, it actually links to the very first question, what has been posted here. How closely are your words connected to your action? So it has got a very close link with the last question on this slide, which says, do you feel respected by your child? Right? So let me just move on. Children have never been very good at listening to the elders. I think at every stage, at every growth stage of your children, you kind of would be intrigued by this question. Array, the child is not listening to me. What do I do? Array, how do I put it across? And questions like this. And they just don't listen, and we give in. Right? Many a times we say that the child just doesn't listen, and we give in, be it for their sleeping habits, be it for their eating habits, be it for their playtime, be it for homework, or anything. Many a times we are intrigued with this thought, come on, the child just doesn't listen to me, right? There's so many aspects. Take, for example, even respecting someone who has just walked in. And there's so many things, not just one or two. There's so many times we are actually put into the situation wherein we feel that, hey, the child just doesn't listen to me. But then they have never failed to imitate us, right? Many times they have never failed to imitate us. Knowingly or unknowingly, we have actually demonstrated a lot of things to them wherein they have directly or indirectly learned certain behaviors. Directly or indirectly, they have said that this is the right way to do something, right? And it's also very important that we need to stop ourselves and ask this question that how am I behaving? How am I acting for a given situation? And what kind of observing our children are doing when we are actually in action, when we are doing few things, especially when children are around, what kind of behavior I am into. It's very, very important that we also become aware of our actions. So that is one aspect of dealing with children, particularly when we talk about disciplining. So the very essential aspect is when we work with children, when we are helping them to be disciplined and take the responsibility of their actions. So it becomes very important that what am I doing in front of the children. So that one question will lead to a lot of bigger answers, right? Okay. um, so it is important to discipline your child. If you just ask this question, many of us ask this question: is it important to discipline our child? Yes, it is very, very important, because a disciplined child can manage anxiety, a disciplined child can manage emotions, a disciplined child can keep himself or herself safe, and the disciplined child can make good choices. Now, let me just look at a disciplined child managing anxiety. Supposing if there is a disciplined child, very simple things, child can finish the homework on time, child can have healthy eating habits, child can have a great routine set, and definitely the lot of lifestyle questions can be handled here. And also the anxieties of there are n number of anxieties which a child can put into because of certain bad behavioral routines, right? And when I say routines, it can be as simple as waking up on time, going to school on time, and eating breakfast on time, and things like that, right? So those are some of the routines, and that has to be a discipline. And also, when we say that managing anxiety, it's also like the child is just not managing himself or herself. The child also tries to respect the other person's you know I mean, the child actually demonstrates a lot of respect to the other people around him. Take, for example, time management itself. The child will respect the time of others. The child will respect what it means to complete something, complete the tasks on time, and things like that. Thereby, the child will actually be managing the anxious situations, and they will be able to moderate themselves better in their tasks. That is one thing. The next thing is managing emotions. I'm just very sorry to give this example. When I was just working with one of the schools, this very, very troubling example, or the situation which I came across. I don't like to mention the name of the school. And this is an adolescent boy who had resorted to some kind of behavior that was not acceptable to the school. Basically, the child had got into some kind of substance abuse. Okay. And so he was caught in action. And the disciplinary committee of the school probably were a little tough on the child. And the immediate action was to bring in their parents to the school. And when the parents walked into the school, the child was made to stand in front of the principal's cabin, which was on a certain floor. And the child saw their parent, who was a father, who was definitely an authoritarian father. And so he was just walking in, and he saw his father coming up. And the father had not just reached the floor, probably that was on the fourth floor. And even before father reached the fourth floor, this boy ran to the cliff of the fourth floor, and he just fell from there, and that was a spot death. And here, the aspect of discipline had gripped this child into such kind of fear, wherein he was even not ready to moderate his actions. Now, if our discipline can bring so much of fear into a child where he actually could end his life, right? This is one extreme example. I'm not saying that every behavior of discipline will push a child to take an extreme step. This is one odd example wherein the child had not understood, or child was not trained, or the child was not kind of oriented towards discipline in the right way. So was it the fear with discipline, discipline with extreme fear that was induced? So if we induce a lot of fear while we are disciplining the children, are we actually getting the right results of our discipline? Some of the questions that we need to be asking ourselves when we are disciplining. The second thing is, it keeps the kids safe. Take for example, if I'm just taking a child while crossing the road, okay, and I can actually ask the child, just not just to cross over, it's a discipline aspect. I can ask the child to stop, look through right and look through left, and then cross over, right? That can also be a discipline. Small example, it's just a small example. When I'm just crossing the road, hey, you stop and just watch what happens. That's also a responsible behavior. That's also a discipline. And when this child grows up, when the child actually grows up and tries to ride a bicycle, ride a bike, and when the child is actually in the adult age, when, as the person goes through different spans of life, you can also see this behavior when he or she is driving on roads. Probably the road rage can come down, is it not? So it can also, that's one example. So now we can actually scale it to a lot of other things. And so that's something which has to be considered. And you know even for example, using the knife while cutting the vegetables, right? If you can actually train and use certain kind of discipline things. Now if you don't cut this in such a way, you will be harming yourself, and the knife has to be kept in a certain way, right? That's again a discipline. Now the child has used the knife and has not kept the knife back in its place. And can we explain the consequences of not keeping the knife properly in its place? The second thing is, when the child comes from school and there is a habit of throwing things away, scattering things around, and things like that. So can we actually kind of explain to the child that why is it important to keep certain things in its place? Now repeatedly we do this, we explain the child, and there probably could also be certain kind of consequences which can be explained. Now if you don't do it, this is what is going to be happening. Now can we stick to it? Probably initial stage, as per I will also be dealing with the age appropriateness of disciplining things. So if a child does not stick to the what has been told, what happens? How do we actually help the child to understand why is it important to keep certain things in place? And if it is not being done repeatedly, so what kind of punishment or what kind of rewards we give? How do we encourage the consequences of an action by doing positive reinforcements? How do we encourage a negative behavior by giving negative reinforcements? That's something which we need to be talking about, which we need to be understanding. The other aspect is, teach kids to make good choices. That's very important. That means that we are also giving an autonomy to a child to make choices. As simple as, if there are many things on the dining table, it's good to say that we explain the health benefits of the food which is on the dining table. But then there is also certain kind of choice. If the child just does not like to eat something, uh, probably the child has to be given certain kind of a choice to express why the child does not like something and why the child likes something. Now whether you push the child to eat or not to eat what is there on the table is a right it's another question, right? But then many a times the kids may not have other choices other than what is actually there on the table. But then in case the child has a choice, and how does the child actually makes the right choices is also one of the disciplining aspect. Now, when we look at all these things, helping a child to manage anxiety, helping the child to manage emotions, or helping a child to keep himself or herself safe, or helping the child to make good choices through discipline, only one thing that needs to be kept in mind. You need to be that scaffolders. You need to be that support to the child when the child has actually not done the things in the way it is supposed to be done. So here what I mean to say is, we may not approve of their actions, but then we have to tell them that they are not wrong, but their actions are not in the right direction. So if we can actually bring this kind of responsible thought process in a child, they will be in a better position to evaluate themselves going forward, right? So let me just move on to how do we discipline as per age appropriateness. So when we are at different age, the children, as I mentioned earlier, they understand things in different perspectives. Now, is it important to discipline a child from 0 to 2 years? So probably when the child is walking, when the child is giving eye contact, when the child has started moving on its own and walking, yes, it is important. Generally, how do we work with this child who is of 0 to 2 years? When the child is going to get some object which is harmful, generally what we do, hey, no, 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 don't do that, stop, no. We scream and kind of say no's. There are so many no's to the child of this age. So what does the child do? What happens to the child when we constantly keep saying no to the child at this age? Probably child has kind of stopped doing things, uh, thinking that there is someone who stops me from doing something. There's a lot of learning which goes on, by hearing a constant no from someone around you. So the child will stop initiating, the child will stop taking actions, right? The child will stop taking that step for learning. Those things can be hampered here. So what do I do? How do I stop this behavior? How do I correct, what is the right way of kind of handling the situation with the children who are between the age group to 0 to 2 years? Probably you can move the object away, or move the child away, or distract the child. These are some of the it's very easy to do, very, very easy to do, right? So the child is still does not have that cognition to understand that something has been moved away and things like that. It's not taking away, it's not grabbing something from the hand and things like that, right? Even when the child is holding on to something which is injurious, the child has to be calmed down first, distracted, and then take the things away. So that's exactly what needs to be done with the years 0 to 2 years. Now, if you're looking at 3 to 5 years, how do we discipline the child? Explain the expected behavior of the child even before you discipline the child. Now, how do we do that? Um, Take for example, it has to be told, set routines, definitely important. And setting routines, as per your lifestyle, as per your environment, you need to set routines. And in case the child does not fall in, supposing the homework routine is there, the child does not do the homework, he or she needs to be told the consequences of not doing something, right? It has to be explained, and it has to be told even after the consequences have been, in fact, probably they need to be guided in this age. Constantly, they need to be guided. Probably help is also needed to complete a certain task. Even after you complete the task, tell them that because you helped, the child is staying away from certain reprimanding actions, probably in the school or wherever it is. So that's something which can be done prior and post the action. Both, it has to be explained even in this age. Now, when we are looking at 6 to 8 years, it's important. We can actually look at things like timing out. making a child come out of the actions what they are doing, and time out, in the sense move away, make the child move away from what they are doing. And also there can be the consequences to the actions. Supposing you want to encourage a positive behavior in a child, as simple as sticking to the homework routine, or eating on time, going to bed on time, probably you will have to bring in these are the positive actions, right? You need to encourage the child to do positive things. So you can bring in positive token economy here. Probably what I mean to say by positive token economy is accumulating certain points to the child and giving a reward for the positive behavior which the child has demonstrated for a period of time. You can say that now if you do homework complete this week on time, probably I'm going to allow you to watch a movie, or I'm going to take you out, or I'm going to get you something. But it should not be instant gratification. It has to be a delayed gratification, and the child should also enjoy the reward what it is getting. On the flip side, there should be certain kind of actions which will stop the child from doing negative behaviors. Take for example, the child hits a sibling, right? This kind of action has to be kind of stopped then and there. Now, hitting the child is not good. So the child has to be explained that hitting child, the other person is harmful, it is physically harmful, and hence it calls for certain kind of a discipline measure. Probably here you can actually take away something which is already there. That has to be instant, that has to be immediate. The child has to understand, because of this action which has caused a harm to another person, we are actually resorting to certain kind of discipline actions. And this has to be constant, it has to be done constantly. It's not like I'm going to be doing it today, the child has hit today, and tomorrow I'm just going to be ignoring. Every time the child hits someone who is below the power of the age group of the child, or whatever it is, above or below, whatever it is, the discipline aspect has to be constant, and there is no compromise on that. So when do we encourage the positive behaviors of a child? When do we encourage to suppress the negative behaviors of a child? And when do we use the token economy? When do we use the negative reinforcers like taking away and things like that? That has to be carefully calibrated. That has to be carefully decided by the parents or the people in authority of the children. Right? That becomes very important. Now, so between the age groups 9 and 12, you should allow the consequences of the discipline, right? When I say consequences of the discipline to take its natural course. Let me go back to this homework example itself. If the child between this age group has not done homework, it's very important that many parents or many of the people with the fear of the harm, to the child, what they do is they will do the homework and they send it. Here the child is learning, if I don't do it, there is someone who is actually helping, and the correction does not come in the child. So it becomes very important that the child has to face the natural consequences. Now if you don't do this homework, but it's important to explain the child to stick to the routines, and also keep telling the child that if you don't do this, this is what is going to be happening, and allow the child to face the negative end, because that's going to be the learning experience to the child. So the natural consequences should be faced by the child, but empower the child to handle the natural consequences. And also explain to the child that why those consequences have come in. But here, whoever is in authority, let them not label the child, let them not brand the child, but only not agree with the actions of the child which has been done. So that becomes a very, very important factor. And as the child approaches the adolescent age, we call them adolescents who are 12 and 13 years up. Nowadays the adolescent age is kicking early for the girls. As soon as they get into puberty, they're considered the adolescent behavior starts kicking in, because there's going to be a lot of hormonal changes and things like that. So here very clear rules have to be set to them, and curfew time has to be set to them. Probably you need to speak and then set rules. You need to actually involve the person who is in that age group. You involve that person, and then take their consensus in setting up the rules for them, be it homework, be it go hanging around with friends, be it the screen time, or be it the curfew time, or be it the dating time. These are the things what kind of causes trouble, right? But definitely it has to be talked about. The certain boundaries have to be set. In case the boundaries have they go beyond the set norms, and we definitely will have to kind of say them that they will have to meet the natural consequences of their behavior. In fact, there should not be any compromise on the consequences, but consequences like the positive reinforcers or the negative reinforcers, what we are talking about, should be very carefully be calibrated by the people in authority. So this is also one aspect where parents, generally start avoiding disciplining their children. In case if any of these things have been done, please, please take charge. You feel sorry for your child because they have been under stress. Today my child has gone through a lot of stress and I will allow her to do it. But routines have to be met, right? Um, and it is also they will also be able to manage the stressful situations and try to manage and multitask. So you evaluate what is that stressful situation, and you take charge. But the child has under supposing the child has done 2-3 events in the day, and doing homework in that day is very very imperative, and you allow the child not to do that homework, right? That can be a bad precedent. But here you can actually moderate. You have done 2-3 events. You can talk to the child as to what help the child needs to complete the homework, but you don't start doing the homework. Now you can put the child in comfortable situation and make the child do the homework. What I feel is moderation is the key here in this case. Many a times we get away by saying child did not mean to do it, right? Many a times we say that he didn't mean to do it, it just happened. Take for example, the child is bringing a glass of water and it just dropped it. Yeah, nobody means any kind of nobody wants to destroy something so easily. But then it has to be told that by not being careful it got dropped, and also probably the parent can involve the child in cleaning up the mess, right? Just say it's okay, this has happened, not a problem, but then you help me clean this up. Now what the child will understand here is, if there is certain behavior, by knowingly or unknowingly I have done it, it does not mean that I can get away with that, right? Definitely, even by knowing or unknowingly, if I do something, there can be some consequences. So this learning will be reinforced as early as possible. If you can start getting this kind of behavior at a very early stage, they will take definitely responsibility of their actions. And not much time with them lately. Some harsh, if you don't give much time to them when they need it, it becomes a deterrent. And harsh disciplines some harsh disciplining, you definitely need to be avoiding. And using this word called, after all she is a kid or he is a kid, we bring in that kind of thoughts into your mind. You don't do it because you don't like your child being upset, right? Nobody wants their children to be upset, you know. but many a times, we are so, he or she is my only child, and I don't want to upset my child. I don't want to harm my child. But in reality, in the long run, we will be harming our child. Many a times it's our inability to deal with the situation. We have had a very, very stressful day, and we ignore the actions of our children, right? That is also something which cannot be done. And many a times we use this word, anyway, he doesn't listen to me, I'll just leave it. I don't want to interfere, I'll just leave it. It starts as early as 3 years. The child just doesn't listen. We keep saying, he doesn't listen, he wants this, so I'm giving it. They have learned that by showing a certain action, and by not listening, the act of not listening, I can get away with things. That kind of learning will also be reinforced. So your child will think you're mean. If I do this, if my child mistakes me, if I am judged by a child, these are some of the reasons why we parents refrain from disciplining our children. So these are some of the multi, aspects of disciplining the child. Now, how do we do it? Is some of the things what we, kind of looked in at the age appropriate disciplining of the child. Now, when we use the right disciplining strategy, when we use the right consequences, by encouraging a positive behavior, the reinforcer should be in such that we encourage the positive behavior and we discourage the negative behavior. Definitely, we are taking care of a responsible behavior from a child. When we feel that the child is taking responsibility of its action, they don't mind facing the consequences of their actions. But definitely in this case, their self-esteem is not affected, their emotions are intact, and they will also be safe. And definitely the aspect of dignity which comes with a good self-esteem of a child will be taken care. So with this, I think I will just be stopping my talk. I'm here to take the questions. So if there are any questions, you can feel free to ask me. Are there any questions, please? Shaila ma'am, are you listening?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not able to see in the chat window. In case if there are any questions through YouTube, if you would want to let me know, I don't mind. Or you have any question?
If you could throw a little more light on the adolescent disciplining, ma'am, it would help.
Yeah. So when I say disciplining with adolescents, as I told you, one size fits all, we cannot be using that. With adolescent behavior, we also need to give certain kind of leverage. Now, take for example, if you're looking at curfews, right? Curfews, you need to be coming home at this time, and things like that. There, in case if we can have certain kind of relaxation. Now, how can we allow this? Supposing the child wants to extend the curfew time on that particular day or so, probably before going out, the child can actually have a consensus with the parents, say that this is what it is. So I would need a little autonomy to stay back. And probably the parent can also speak about the safety concerns and things like that, and then give a little leverage. That can be done. The second thing is this example I came through when I was researching on this topic. Supposing the child has kind of resorted to some kind of unhealthy behavioral habits, for example, smoking and things like that, and the child is got caught, right? And you explain with the child, and with adolescent I'm talking about, and you give the child, the adolescent, that the after effects of this and so on and so forth. And again, after what we have given gyan, the child is again caught third time, caught fourth time. And this is when there are a lot of things which can actually become a problem here. Now, because of the fear of getting caught, the child can actually lie, the child can actually hide and do things and things like that. But here, the parent actually should encourage the child to speak about how many cigarettes, what's been happening, and is it harming, and the parent should actually get into a conversation mode in understanding how deep the habit has gone, and also kind of speak about the consequences of the continued behavior and things like that. Here, the discipline is not like I reprimand, you do this, I'm going to take away, it's not going to work. We are dealing with habits here. So the parent should constantly be talking to the child, and also the change will not be immediate in this kind of a situation. It has to be gradual. Now, take for example another aspect of an adolescent children, either a boy or girl, is in an unhealthy relationship, right? And again, in this case, disciplining is important, but how do we do it? We'll have to definitely speak about the negative consequences of a particular relationship, and speak to the child about what if something goes wrong, what are the plans the child has got, and how prepared the child is to handle the emotional debacles or the academic debacles if something goes wrong, and what are its plan, and how safe the child is. Can a parent do that? Can a parent talk to the child in that line? So that becomes important while we are considering disciplining the child in terms of unhealthy relationships, disciplining the child in unhealthy habits and things like that. So definitely we need to have a more empathetic view while disciplining the children, and understand their emotional needs, understand their physical needs too. So that becomes an important aspect while disciplining the children who are in the age group 13 and up, yeah, whom we consider adolescents. Have I made my point, Shaila ma'am? Yes. Any other question? Is there anything else you would want to ask, ma'am, or the participants?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Sorry, there's been a slight lag.
Yeah.
I'll just read out a few questions which parents have asked. One of the questions is, how do we wean off a child from mother's milk without going cold turkey?
Okay. So this is to do, it's not to do with the discipline aspect here. It's to do with the nurturing of a child with regard to certain kind of healthy aspects. Definitely, you need to take the pediatrician help here, understand the physical condition of a child, and probably you'll also have to look in at your availability to attend to the child when it needs. So it's not to do with the discipline aspect, according to me, because breastfeeding is essential, aspect of the healthy development of the child. So you will have to look at a lot of other parameters, take the medical intervention, take doctor's help, understand the child requirement, understand your time availability, and then the moderations have to be done accordingly. So I'm not sure about the age of the child here. What's the age of the child, ma'am?
Not mentioned, ma'am, but I think an infant probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it is below 2 years, definitely the pediatrician help needs to be taken before the withdrawal also. So we'll have to look at the physical condition of the child or the
Ma'am,
infant.
yeah. One more question.
Hmm.
How do we get our children to trust us to disclose things?
Again, it is to do with, if I'm not wrong, they are talking about the adolescent age. It all depends on how good a listener you are. It becomes very important that we understand the child from their point of view and their frame of reference. And then what is that communication platter what I have with the child? And many a times, definitely children will have the fear that if I say something now, for sure I'm going to expect a negative comment from my parent probably 3 months from now, and that's this fear like she will pick on me on this if I reveal it now. So the parent has to assure that we are going to be dealing with this particular event now, and that is important. And when dealing with any events like that, we are dealing it only with now in mind. Don't bring the past and not take this in future. So if that kind of behavior is actually given or demonstrated by the parents, definitely they will definitely trust the parents and you know uh, talk to them, because many a times what happens is any negative, they do have certain kind of pattern with which the parents have already dealt with such certain kind of situations. The situations could be, as I told you, in the age appropriateness of disciplining. Probably we have kind of used such kind of consequences or the reinforces that has induced fear in children, and that rather than taking a responsibility of their behavior of actions. So exactly, that's why I said how we use the reinforcers in the children to encourage positive behavior and discourage negative behavior, and what kind of reinforces what we use at a very early age is also very, very important, because this is the stage when we will be reaping the fruits of our action. Particularly when the child is in the adolescent age, that's when we will be reaping the fruits of our action, of our own behavior. So if we have kind of treated respected our children with respect, even with regard to the rewards or the consequences or the punishments, that's when the child actually trusts, and so that becomes a responsible behavior. So if you are actually expecting a drastic change in the child to come and reveal to you everything when they come to an adolescent age, I don't think we can be expecting, because we have already demonstrated certain behavior. But if we have a very nice pattern way of dealing with the children when they are going off track, definitely even in the adolescent age, they will definitely trust us, and then they come and talk to us. Definitely, parental trust is, they do trust us. It's not that the children don't trust us, they will trust us, but there is a lot of fear for the consequences of the actions. So if you can actually work on the consequences of the action, definitely you can gain trust. Definitely they'll come and share a lot of things with you. Only stance what you need to be taking is, you will have to listen to your children with empathy. That becomes very important.
Do we have time for one more question now?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
With adult children, do we still have time to admit our mistakes and make them understand that it is not healthy to have taken it from us?
Definitely, yes. Talking um, about and expressing why there was a certain kind of action becomes very, very important, even in making your child understand you. So they'll start becoming empathetic towards you. Now, the way you present it, being genuine, being honest, and then, past is past, but past cannot come. But what we can do with the future, if you can demonstrate it, definitely the children will listen. Definitely they can understand. After all, they are in the growth stage, and they are in the learning phase. They are empathetic, and adolescent is a beautiful age. If you connect through the right cord, they are with you. They are with you through the thick and thin. Definitely they will be there with you even when the situations are thin, and definitely you can expect their cooperation when the situations are thick. So yes, communication is the key. Becomes important that we communicate why did you did what you did. And here you need not take an apologetic stand, but definitely children owe an explanation why these things have happened, and what, in case if there are certain things like that, what you would plan to do in the future. So, and that has to be demonstrated all through. That becomes important. Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you. Very helpful. I think one more last, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
This probably I understand that one Mr. Devesh has messaged how to make family understand this. That is disciplining with dignity. Probably a joint family. I'm just assuming. So.
See, you will have to understand who the immediate role models to the child are. Definitely, that becomes important. That when I'm saying about this, exactly what I told when we do role modeling. What are the kind of role models the child is picking on? That becomes important. And in case if it is you, it becomes very easy for you to kind of bring in a discipline. In case if it is someone else other than you, you can definitely talk to the child about why the child has picked up a certain role model in the house, and what is that, those things that's appealing or not appealing, and things like that. Communication is the key according to me. But in case if there are a lot, a few people in the house, definitely family rules have to be set. The environment should be made in such a way that it's not just the parents who give the disciplinary kind of lessons. There are a lot they pick up from the environment too. But is a parent or the guardian or the caretaker, is the parent aware of this kind of the learnings which is happening with the child? So that becomes important. Yes, family time has to be set. There should be a time when everyone communicates to each other. And that's one of the reasons why in olden days, people used to sit across the dining table and talk. There has to be a drawing room time in case if all of you can just spend some time sitting in the drawing room and talking about each other. And if there are 5 6 people and all the people are islands in the house, definitely there will be going to be discord. So what I mean to say is, any which dynamics you have in your house, there should be some kind of family time. It becomes very, very important to understand what's happening in each other's life. So if that is kind of not happening, the communication, the learnings, will be according to the convenience of each one, be it an younger child or an adolescent child or an adult, whoever it is. So that becomes imperative. Yeah, managing family dynamics will be a precedent for any child's growth, be it positive, negative, or disciplined growth. So that becomes important.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I think that's the questions we have for today. Thank you, ma'am, for a very, very enlightening session. Actually, very, very important. Many points were an eye opener. Actually, like I particularly like that self-respect is the fruit of discipline. And that's something which is very very, very nice. We we deal with children, with our own children, and I'm sure parents could relate many points to the daily experiences they have with their children, right from an infant or up to an adolescent. So how important it is to discipline a child has been explained very nicely. Thank you very much, ma'am. And especially, I like the part wherein I could relate that there are reasons parents avoid disciplining children is an eye opener, because I am sure parents will relate some points at least, telling that either they are tired or stressed out and they feel, okay, now I am not in a mood to advise the children and things like that. So there's some so I'm sure we, as you say, we have to be empathetic with children, and we have to first discipline ourselves and so that the children learn from us. So it was really a very
yeah. So what I want to do is, nobody is perfect. Nothing is perfect. So, but in this imperfections, we need to try to work towards perfection. But nobody can attain that perfection. So no child is perfect. No adult or adolescent is perfect. But then there is a certain kind of etiquette, there is a certain kind of behavior which is socially, culturally, ethically, morally acceptable. So I feel we all have to fit into that norm. So if we can understand this and foster the healthy emotional well-being of a child, and when I say emotional well-being, it's out and out. It's a holistic approach. If we can give that approach in the growth of a child, definitely we can have the more responsible adults or adolescents or the citizens of this country. So with that note, I conclude. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Once again, parents and all of us have benefited from the session. Thank you for your time. Thank you, dear parents. We have just posted the feedback form. Please give your valuable feedback on the chat window. Please take 2 minutes of your time. Thank you once again for joining us. We look forward to many more such sessions. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Neve, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, ma'am. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.